I thought we would kind of go around and then have opportunity for Q&A and some maybe some others to share a little bit and kind of give us just an overview of what's happening in your context and what God's been doing in your world through this season. As a district guy, it's fun to be able to go to the different churches and see the different approaches, and literally they're as different as night and day sometimes at different churches. But I think that's good because you know your context, you know what's going on, you know and even the restrictions in every city and township are completely different. And so therefore how you adapt and how you roll with the changes of what's going on with church are quite different as well. And so wanted to just start in prayer today and ask that God would be with us as we meet, and then we'll kind of get right into it. And so Kev Rogers, why don't you open in prayer, if you will.
Thanks, Jason. Lord, we want to thank you that we can take time in our day to connect with brothers and sisters across the region. And we thank you, Lord, that you know what's coming. We're really having a hard time predicting anything to do with the future, but we know that it's fully in your hands, and that you're with us right now. So we thank you for that, and we pray for your strength, your discernment, your wisdom, and Lord, help us to be of good courage. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, just as we kind of get rolling, this has been unique days, and as I've been listening to and processing with different pastors and churches, the different approaches, I want to talk a little bit today about what it means to kind of just be looking down the field and being adaptable to where we're going. And so I want to talk about what I've seen as some of the best practices of churches who are doing well during this season, and ones who are really kind of hitting the mark and doing things. Also want to take time to just pray for one another and have a moment where we connect. As we did studies, Barna came out with some research last week that said 65% of pastors are busier than they were before. So they just say, man, I'm overwhelmed. And then 70% would say, I'm overburdened with all the information. I have so much information and so much content coming at me. How do I curate that? How do I put that and frame that into stuff that I can do? And the information is so vast on either ends, and it's like, I don't even know where to start sometimes. And there's just that feeling of overwhelmed in the midst of things. And so I want to look at just kind of some principles, I think, of some ones who have been doing well. And then I want to hear from some of our pastors and just kind of hear what's going on in their world. So I want to give you a couple principles real quick, just off this top, and then we'll get into hearing from some of our leaders. So number one, the pastors that I see that in churches that are doing really well, number one is that they're adaptable. They're changing with the times. They're being willing to go with what's happening. I know my wife's church where she's on staff, they have every 2 weeks, it's been a full tilt. Okay, we made plans, but now we had to re-engineer those plans and relook at things. So I would say hold your model lightly right now and be willing to work. We're in the midst of a major cultural change. And so if you look through history, which I'm kind of a history guy, and they always say history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, right? And so there's all those little nuances. And when you're in that midst of the change of era, the church often changes much. And so pre-war, if you looked at our culture, it was more of a survival-based culture. It was like, okay, people are just trying to get food on their table and eke out a living. And church kind of reflected that. It was that coming together multiple times, not a lot of entertainment things going on. It was about hard work and just kind of getting by. It was grit, you know. Then we see kind of post-war, the consumer culture took over, and the hero was the marketer, the person who could market themselves the best and bring in the most people and say, hey, I've got something you need. And the church kind of fall into that as well. We became a consumer-driven church culture, and so most people would say, as you read that 2018 was kind of a watershed year where they said the culture is once again shifting out of the consumer kind of culture, and it's going to a creator culture. So no longer is the what I have, my life defined by what I have, but instead now life is being defined by what I can create and what I can develop. And so as platforms develop, they would say as Amazon took over and as Netflix and all these platforms that offered things, it's changed how we look at what we consume even. And so it's moved away from that consumer culture to more of a creator culture. So as a church, we have to adapt. We have to say our culture is changing, our culture is switching. How are we adapting to what's going on? How are we rolling with the times? So number one is churches that have done well have adapted. They've just tried different things, R&D'd it out, and said, okay, we're willing to do things differently. The second one is that they're connected. The pastors that are doing really well, the churches that are doing well, are ones who are saying, we're not just putting stuff online, but we're actually connecting with people. And there's been a resurgence, I believe, of that idea of the mission of the church. What is it? Worship. You know, it's mission, it's community and coalescing together. And so checking in with people and looking into people. I believe with the change that's gone on, what we value in the community has changed. And so therefore, what we have to pour into people, the stressors have changed. And so taking time to actually connect with one another. I've talked to so many churches and they say, you know what? I've regained my pastoral heart during this time. And they said, you know, I kind of refired that idea that I'm actually pastoring people. And so Carol King says this, or Coretta King says, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. And we see the greatness of any community is defined by how it cares for its members. And we see that in the church context, you know. The third one is being online present. And so we've been saying this for years, but I think the church is finally getting that the internet, the online presence is the front door for every church. And now so it's even changed even more so. But if you are not having an online presence, you're kind of, it's a challenging season for you. And so, and not just, and what I say by presence is actually interaction. So some churches have been, the ones who aren't doing well are trying to just repeat what they do on Sundays online. So what we did before, I'll preach behind the pulpit, I'll do the same kind of songs, I'll do all of this, but it just doesn't work the same. You have to re-envision how you're going to engage the culture. And so they've looked at the internet and said, okay, I've got to do things different than what I did before. And so the needs are different, length of time. And, you know, if you're preaching the same length of time, you're probably preaching too long. You need to be, I think whatever you did in person is half the time online. And so unless it's a long play thing, and then you have even longer. And so, but I would say the content and how you do things needs to be different. Number 4 is that I think churches that are doing really well are peace-giving churches. So we live in a world right now where it's so defined by, you know, are you Fox News or are you CNN? Or, you know, it's just, we've gone from a bell curve society, I think, to a well society, and where it used to be the center was the big thing, but now it's the edges, and the center's actually like completely gone away. And so I would say, what are you doing to try and bring peace in your environment? If you're the pastor that's putting conspiracy theories online all the time and hitting the share button of things that you saw online that you haven't fact checked, and you haven't, even if it's true, you have to ask yourself, is this wise? Is it adding peace to my people when the pastor's putting that out? So I would encourage you to be curators of peace. Whatever can help people decipher truth and help people to bring peace to their environments is what you should be doing, and not putting all sorts of crazy stuff online, even if some of it's true, or even if you feel that way. You have to say, as the pastor, I got to be the person to bring peace to the people. How am I going to do that best? And so the churches that are doing well, I see as churches doing that. The fifth one is the idea of healing. I see churches that are doing well are are zones of healing. You look at Jesus' ministry, and what was he about? He was about preaching, teaching, and healing. And as pastors, we overemphasize preaching oftentimes. Occasional one does teaching, but very rarely do we evaluate ourselves and say, am I doing as much healing? Like Jesus, it was almost equally divided between those three areas. And so I would say in this new season that we need to be people of healing. It grieves me that very few of our churches were considered essential services during this time. There's some of them. Some of our churches, the community said, you are an essential service. And I would say, well done to those. But if we weren't deemed an essential service, it would make me beg some serious questions to say, what am I doing to bring healing to my community that I wasn't considered essential during this time? What am I doing to bring healing to the people around me? How am I focusing on that? I think of healing with addictions and things going on. You know, they would say alcohol sales are up 65% in Ontario. 65%. That's a big number. They would say that the calls to the Children's Helpline are up 300% in our community. And so those are some serious numbers, and we need to be asking ourselves, how am I bringing healing to the community? How am I bringing help to the vulnerable during this time? The next thing I think I see is an activation of the body. Those who are doing well are activating its members, and the pastor just not doing it all. We talk about that we believe in the priesthood of believers, but we really don't live like we believe that. And so during this time, I think the churches that have done well are activating the body of Christ and saying, I believe in the priesthood of believers. I believe you have a gift to bring to the body. I believe that you can be used. And pastors that are trying to do it all and say, okay, I've got to learn how to be an editor. I've got to learn how to be a producer. I got to learn how to be, and do all of this web creator. You can't do it all, but I bet you those gifts are within your church. And if they're not present, ask someone younger to figure that out, and they'll probably be able to do it. I love this summer. I've had Kathleen, she's on, one of our summer interns, and she's just been fantastic. And she would say, you know what, I'm not super techie like this. And I just say, figure it out. And she does. And it's amazing. She just like boom, boom, boom. And I believe we need to be activating the body. And this is a great opportunity during COVID time to activate it in even a greater way. The last thing I see is that pastors who have done well have had a healthy work routine. And so this is a challenge for some. Some don't by nature, um, they're not by nature self-disciplined to work alone or work in this kind of environment. And so you have to create that. Some are overworking because there's just an endless stream of things. And actually, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I noticed that a lot of pastors kind of hit a wall. And just talking, I probably had 9 conversations that week with pastors who were mad at staff or stressed out or angry. And I said, have you taken holidays yet this year? And they said, no, I'm kind of waiting till more things open up. I don't want to take holidays right now, or I got too many things on the go. And I kind of thought, we've kind of hit that wall, a lot of us, because we haven't paced well during this and rested well. And so I just want to encourage you to develop that healthy work routine to actually, and then some are not working hard enough, to be honest with you, either. And they just, they haven't, they're working from home, so they start at 10 and they finish at 3, and they're like, that was a good day. It's getting up and being disciplined in your routines to say, you know what, I'm going to work really hard, but then I'm going to take holidays and I'm going to take breaks. And the pastors and the churches who are doing well are getting that balance down well. And so just a few things just to think about off the top here today, but I didn't want to take all the time here. I wanted to actually allow some of our new churches to speak as to what's going on in their world. And so I've asked a couple of them just to share a little bit of what's happening in their journey and what's going on. And so thought we'd start off maybe with Drew. And so Drew Fess, I asked 3 questions. So what are a few things that you're doing to connect with your people during this time? What are some things you're doing to serve your community during this time? And then how are you doing services and gathering during stage 3? And so these are the questions I'm asking to each of the leaders. And so Drew, why don't you start us off? And for those of you who don't know, Drew is pastor of Praxis Church in London. And so go ahead, Drew.
Thanks, Jay. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. And thanks for that, Jay. That was super good stuff just to be thinking through. Yeah, I guess in kind of the three categories have been given. It's an interesting season. Everybody's kind of adjusting and shifting. And then now we're kind of living in the reality that this is like going into month 5. So we're learning obviously week by week, day by day, especially in a community that I'm the only kind of paid staff member. It's a great group of volunteers and people that are leading in the different areas. So we're learning as a team, certainly week in and week out. As far as connecting with our people, everybody's probably noticed that engagement online has tended to go down since March 15th. If you remember March 15th, like it was, everybody's scrambling. It really wasn't that good. We were kind of scrambling within a couple of days to get stuff online. And I think most people felt like engagement was pretty high. It was new. It was kind of sexy and cool. I know in our case, I had friends like in my life that I never ever thought would connect with what we're doing, like text me out of the blue and say, hey, I see that you guys have kind of had to like scramble online and get stuff online. But obviously over time, what becomes familiar can kind of, and when things are more accessible, we can kind of take it for granted. Our people can do that. I know we all can do that. So this summer, we've tried to do a few things in kind of the learning process. One is we, for the first time in a while, have done like a specific summer campaign, a series, actually on a book. We've never done this, but there's a book by a guy named Dave Kinnaman and Mark Matlock. They worked with Barna to produce this book called Faith for Exiles, just looking at kind of Christianity and faith in specifically North America. And they have Canadian stats along with some of the things that they're producing. And so what we did is just to kind of try and engage with our people from a distance. We visited every home mid-June. We gifted them with the book kind of out of our budget to say, hey, this is where we're headed. We hope you can read and join with us, with some nice coffee and a little gift bag for every household in our community, just with the hopes of trying to engage people over the summer season and just see people join in what we're doing. So it's been okay. It's been pretty good. Obviously it's summer. People are, even in the midst of everything that's going on, people are traveling. We also, with our crew, try to do, I just felt like being sometimes the only voice kind of in a smaller kind of church plant, I've gathered some people and produced kind of a midweek podcast. And it's just like 5 of us in the community that are just kind of rambling midweek about the teachings and life and what we're learning, just trying to engage people that would be further learners in a time of kind of being isolated. So it's gone pretty well as well. And now we're just kind of like looking ahead. Our church is 90% under the age of 40, 95% under the age of 45. So there's a lot of activism and a lot of passion around that in our church. So we're just trying to engage some of the racial issues that we're seeing. And so some folk are hosting an event around racism in the church. We're doing a virtual kids camp, just trying to keep some of the families together. And that will be in August with just an emphasis on families watching together. And then we're going to equip and send all the materials out to them in the mail. Just as little ways to keep connected with our people. So it's still hard. I even think through this whole thing, there's like a grieving process and not seeing people face to face. And it has been particularly hard. I know I've felt it, and I know Jay has mentioned this. It's difficult. So those are the ways we've tried with our people. As far as with our community, it's interesting when you're told, especially in the spring, to stay home. So we have a little bit of a partnership with Ronald McDonald House. Every spring we send teams and groups in to make meals, and it's kind of our partner. And so when they tell you stay away, it's kind of hard to, that's been hard as far as some of the community outreach we've done. We've been able though, like financially, to support the food bank, as we try and do every year, the London Food Bank. And as well, one of the things in London that was of a particular need is obviously with people being home, domestic abuse instances have grown in our city. And so we've given a little bit to a local women's shelter here, just trying to keep our finger on that. But we are wrestling through. Every season we do a local outreach, and with some of these, they don't want us to come just because of obviously the season we're in. So we're trying to kind of uniquely navigate our way through that. So we'll see with the fall and some of the partnerships we have. But that, again, the not being in person it's hard on every level. And then now with the transition, like I think Jay, one of the questions you asked was just about the future and stage 3. Right now, we just offer our gatherings online, just as kind of like most people, just a play of teaching and music and trying to keep people connected that way. Our next steps is probably actually not to do that as publicly. Again, I think from the big guy to the little guy, people are engaging, people are realizing that engagement is decreasing. So we're we're sending out a survey this week. We kind of already have a pulse on where people are at. The hope is if to give an option in the fall where people will either meet in their communities. So practices primarily centers around communities during the week, small communities. So we're going to offer those communities to start meeting in person to engage together, and then offer an online experience for people who aren't comfortable with that. But that will not be like, hey, that will not be like, I can just go to YouTube and hit play. That will be like a legit room like this, whatever that looks like. So we're actually going to not that we're going to take everything offline. I think we're just all realizing that, again, when things are super accessible, people don't use it. And there's now that we know, like, that this is not a couple months, I think we, in the beginning, kind of did more what you were saying, Jay. We were producing somewhat of what we were doing on Sundays online because we thought this would be shorter. So we're in rented facilities, and I work a great relationship with Goodwill and the gal there that does our bookings. It was just funny in the beginning. We're like, oh, okay, we'll be in by Easter. She's like, yeah, probably by Easter you'll be in. And then it was like, okay, by May 2-4 weekend. And so now we don't even bring up dates or really go there because we know how long this is going to be. So I think one thing we're trying not to do now that this is longer is to perpetuate a level of consumerism that just says I can hit play and I'm a part of a church. We know, obviously, that things are deeper than that. So we're going to try our best to move away from that in the fall and actually draw people in to community. I don't know if that's too long, Jay. Sorry.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. That's good. Yeah. We're going to go on Rob Good now. Why don't you share with us a little bit about Promise and what's happening there?
So thanks. Promise is we're a church that's 2 years old and we rent a school building. So we are out and we have no light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. So all of the school boards in Ontario have shut down their permits. And so anybody in a school is going to struggle with the exact same thing that we're struggling with. We have a certain level of homelessness. And so that's been challenging, but God has been good. To get into the 3 questions though, what are the 3 things you're doing to connect with the people during COVID? Well, we're praying a lot, but really practically we have with 3 major ways that we approach. The one is a Starbucks run. At first it was every other week, and now it's once a month, where we will go to as many people's houses as request. So we put out this thing saying, hey, Starbucks run is coming up this week. Let me know if you want something. And the purpose of it is that I get to go to the door, knock on the door, hand them their Starbucks order for their family, and then just touch base, pray with them and connect with them and talk about what's going on and how does it work. And generally it takes me 2 days to get through the entire congregation. And the people at Starbucks love it because they see me, they come by and they're like, hey, so you're doing another run? And I'm like, yep. And I mean, it costs me per month now, it costs me about $300 a month to see every single person. Might even be more because it's Starbucks. I don't know. I didn't actually do the math.
That's like 2 drinks, isn't it? So,
right?
Yeah.
But I'll go buy, like, I'll pick up like 6 or 7 drinks in one drive-through order, go deliver them, come back to the same Starbucks and do it again, and then do it again. And so it's really, that's been a highlight for our church. It's been a highlight for me personally, just feeling like being a pastor. I mean, one of the most disconcerting things for me is, guys, I don't feel like a pastor most of the time. I don't know if you guys are with me on that one, but now I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And so when I get to do Starbucks, that feels right. Another thing we're doing is our online connectivity has been a blessing to us. When we planted with a staff channel for Slack. And then, early on we decided, hey, why don't we just include everybody and we'll just see what happens. And nothing was happening on Slack. It was like crickets all the time. And then as soon as COVID happened, Slack just lit up. And Slack will give you 5 gigs of texting for free, and then it starts bumping it off on the end. And we had all of our history, all like there, no problem. Now I don't have anything before Easter. Like there's nothing. I've got 5 gigs of just photos and datas and videos and well wishes, and like we get our Slack stuff, and we're a church of 100, but we've got 700 messages going through every single week on Slack, and so we get our stats coming back, and so people are just connecting online, and it's a private social media place, so that's been really good for us. And then services, we are one of those churches that we pre-recorded a typical service. You know, we've got worship, announcements, kids ministry, and then a spiritual discipline, and then a sermon. But once every 5 weeks in our rhythm, we have a full-on discussion. So we bring everything onto Zoom. We bring the whole church onto Zoom. And this last Sunday, we did our church service on Zoom. And we really just debated the question of, if you want to prove something is true, do you have to chapter and verse it? And, you know, it's interesting because I don't really have a good solid answer for it, but my congregation went everywhere with it. You know, that was a good 1 hour discussion on, do you have to chapter and verse to prove that this is from God? And so it was, you know, just a great discussion. And the feedback I've gotten this week from that, and every time after I do a forum, is just so high. They're like, oh my gosh, I felt like I really engaged something. I was thinking differently. I was, you know, really considering. And so our discussion stuff has been good. So, and then what are we doing to connect with the community? We're really doing one thing. Our groups, they're called Promise Groups. They are given the opportunity to use mission money in our church to apply for a grant to improve the community. And so we have mission dollars going to stuff that helps out the community. So one of the things that we're doing, it's coming up on August 26th. One group was like, can we rent a drive-in theater to celebrate the grade 9s going into grade 9 because they didn't get a proper graduation. And it works within the COVID rules, and it's something we're allowed to do. And so we're busy promoting, we rented a drive-in theater, and we're inviting every single grade 8 in town to come to the drive-in and do it all according to the drive-in rules, and they're allowed to be open, so whatever. And go to the drive-in, watch the movies. And I think we're going to call it something like COVID screwed up my graduation and all I got was this movie. And so that'll be the event name. Other ones we're doing is another group wanted to do something for the food bank. Obviously, it was kind of like, this is what we did. And another group is doing a bicycle repair, a midsummer bicycle repair and tune-up day. And so they just, you know, these grants, they go out, and our community, you know, I hear Jay, he talks about, you know, creator culture. This is a way that Promise is allowing people to lean into that creator culture. What did you get to do? Not just what was given to you, what did you get to do? And so I think the church, our church has this awesome opportunity to facilitate good works by using mission money in a preset kind of, this is the way it goes, go do this. And it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea with your small groups, everyone. I hope you heard that. It gets them thinking on mission, and then tying it. It's not rogue, but it's tying it back into the local church, which is pretty cool. So they are curating the ideas and coming up with it, and then the church is empowering it. Love it. Okay, we got to go pretty fast here, Rob. So give us the next couple. Sorry,
no, it's good. We're moving on, and space is still a question. We might end up in a United Church, and it's got pews and it's got stained glass, and everything has plaques on it that says, you know, this is from 1980 or from 1931. And I'm just like, oh Lord, please help us. But we might be going there. And so Jason really, you know, was encouraging me on that. And I'm not as encouraged as Jason is on it, but whatever, we'll see. So services we right now are gathering, to watch a pre-recorded service. And so it's really been a way that's worked for us. It won't work after September 13th. September 13th, we're going to go live again and do whatever we're allowed to do, and just go, okay, God, this is your church. We're going to do what we can. But I find the same thing that that Andrew felt, where he's like, there's an element of the online it's just missing. It's missing something really significant, and so we need to get people to gather. So our next sermon series is called Why We Gather.
Cool. And I see that at quite a few places where they're gathering to watch the online presence. So they're having like watch parties, but actually in person now that it's opened up, and that's really taking off. And then you have somebody pastoring that smaller group, and kind of cool. So thanks. We'll go on to, we got to go a little faster with everybody just because I want to get everybody in. So if you have one or two good ones, just give us those if you can. I'll go to Mike Bronson now at Mountainside. Michael Bronson is just, if you don't know Michael Bronson, you need to get to know him. He is pastor extraordinaire and full of great wisdom and ideas. So Mike, why don't you share with us?
Yeah, so one of the more effective things that we've been doing has been just with connecting people, has been porch drop-offs. So we try to do like every 1 to 2 months kind of thing, drop something off at someone's house. So for like Easter, for example, everyone received a little card with a little kids baggie kind of thing, and a print of like an Easter verse or something like that, and then for Mother's Day we did a similar thing. For Father's Day, right before summer, that happened. So, and we're trying to think through case at some point in August, we got to drop something off at every address, and we're at the size where we can do that. I know that's probably not realistic for every local church, but for us, we're able to do that, which is nice. And then we've been trying to call people as well. We have a working list that we've been working through. And so like we have a set up teardown pastor. So it's kind of like, hey buddy, your role is now the phone call pastor. So he's we wanted to keep him. So he just phones people, that's his job now.
That's a really good thing, Michael. It's just talking about repurposing our people and saying, okay, this was your role. Now it's got to change. It's a new environment. So nobody has the same roles anymore, but repurposing and say, you fit here now, and try and working with people. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So we just had a big document basically we called it like COVID staff tweaks kind of thing. And most people had just a tweak of their role, but yeah, some people like our one guy, his whole role was just, it's a brand new role now, and so we'll see what happens with that. Just connecting with the community, doing outreach stuff. The one thing that we're doing every week is we just call it Popsicles in the Park. So we set up the first week just to test it out. We set up in every park in our community. And just as people went on their Sunday night walk, and obviously we did it with like gloves and a mask and a separate table and stuff. But basically it was as people walked by, hey, do you want a popsicle on your walk kind of thing. So that was really cool. It's something like 750 popsicles, so like 750 people what you heard about Mountainside that night, and just like, oh yeah, that church. Okay. You guys are still around, that kind of thing. So that was cool. So we do that every Sunday night now. We just chose one park to make it realistic. We also go to the skate park every week, set up a tent, play music, same thing with popsicles, just that kind of thing. And as far as services go, and there's a couple other random events, that kind of thing. Again, trying to make sure it's all safe and all that. And then for services, we're at the point now where we're doing kind of a hybrid approach online. So we pre-record our messages, pre-record worship, but then we have in between all that, we have live MCs that kind of take us through the service, which is really cool because then we can interact with the comments. And even like, isn't it like, it sucks it's a rainy day, because it's like, we can do that because it wasn't pre-recorded. So that's always a strength of that, but we can still have the quality of pre-recorded stuff. And then we met once so far, and then we're going to meet again, not this Sunday, the Sunday after. We're doing an outdoor service. So I think for the time being, we're going to just meet together once a month. We have a banquet center in town that we're able to do that at. So we're going to meet the first week of the month in person, and then the rest online. So it's kind of a hybrid, and it's kind of interesting because, at least people I've talked to, some people are like, I can't believe you're not meeting every week. Come on, online, like meet in person. And then the other group's like, how dare you meet online? It's so dangerous. You're people are, so we just have both sides hating on us, because we do both, but whatever. We're just trying to get our feet wet, kind of ease our way back into it. And to be honest, I don't see us getting back to the fall and just meeting every week in person again. I think we're going to stick with this once a month thing for a while. And for us, it's important just because I'm just thinking of one friend that came and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you so long. Have you been watching? He's like, oh no, I haven't watched online in like four months. This is my first church service experience in 4 months. I'm like, bro, you got to watch online. He's like, nah, I'll see you next month. It's like, oh, come on. But there's just going to be those people. Yeah. And just for online, I already said we do hybrid. So yeah, figuring it out just like the rest of us, but yeah, having fun while doing it though.
It's good. Really good. That's where you just don't know who's connecting sometimes online. So I was a part of doing a water baptism 2 weeks ago for a guy who got saved during COVID, never been to church before. It was his first time actually going to the actual facility, but came to faith and radically changed, been watching online. You're like, wow, where did this come from? And then other people that you think would be engaging aren't and are drifting, and so that's challenging. Next up, James, why don't you just share? James is doing an amazing job. Revival Waves at his service this weekend. It was their 1 year anniversary. So they've been going for a full year now. So now he is a veteran of ministry as their church is a year old. So they're like full tilt veteran, got it going on. What I love about James, they're just open. So they run a Tamil service. They have in Spanish and in English. Like getting after it and making it happen. And so, Pastor James, why don't you just share a little bit, kind of quick overview of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Jay. Is it okay if I share a couple of slides here, Jay?
Yep. Diane is officially the host, so she has to make you a co-host.
I don't think she's here. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
You can just do it.
Go.
It's
Yep.
fine.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Quickly, because of the time, I just want to share quickly. Okay, but before that, Pastor Jason was saying about adaptable and connected and online presence, especially the one that touched me was active members. So we believe in one thing, like all of us have a role to play in building the kingdom of God. So here are a couple things I'd like to just share because of the time. Okay, so hope you can all see my screen. So this is what we do in Revival Waves. We find out who is interested in what, or who has the talent, who has the passion for God. So we encourage those people, those members. We encourage them, and when we start encouraging, some of them would be hyper, some of them would be, trying to be bossy. So where we'll come in and we will educate them. We will guide them, what is their role, what they need to do. And then we make sure they are engaged. They take the leadership role in wherever area they are committed to. So with that, being said, Jay was asking me how we got, we connect during the pandemic. So these are the few methods that we had. Like we have a church WhatsApp group. Also, we have split into smaller groups like the Bible study. We have the kids ministry. We have the other stuff like, reflection. Like those who are interested, they get connected. So the thread keeps going. The thread keeps going. Everyone is active in that way. And also the Zoom. Zoom is mainly for elderly people who are not able to come all the way. And also, I personally feel that at least once in a week, not during the service time, but in between, they should see each other and interact, talk to each other. Maybe what they are going through, so reflective kind of. It is especially for elderly or those who are coming far from. And once we started this, even people across the nation started joining, and that's really cool. That's really cool. And the other thing was, as a pastor, I made it a point that I would knock the doors of my members. I will visit them, see them, and see how they are. As long as they are okay, that me visiting them. Because of the COVID, some of them were not able to. And on the other side, attending on phone calls, like giving them counsel or reaching out to them, or they reach me, making myself available anytime they call me. So those are the means that we use to connect the members. Well, connecting the community, these are a few things, maybe some of the things that you have already mentioned here, some other pastors you mentioned. One cool thing, like, the taking care of the lawn, or leaving the food to the neighbor's door and coming quietly. Not to all, but some people, they are really suffering, maybe because of no job, or because they are living alone, single moms, such things. What we make sure, like, it is not directly me or my team, but we make sure our members, our church members, they identify who is in need in their community. So they, through them. So in that way, we make the member also feel that they are a part of some mission work there. So that is something cool, and many are encouraged doing that now. And whomever we feel that they are not doing well, or they are in need, and some people, they don't take money, so we make sure we send them a gift voucher for a grocery or something. So these are some means that we try to, and especially the youth, the youngsters, they are going and helping the neighbors, cutting, taking care of their lawn, and thus making a conversation with them, and inviting them to prayer cell, or coming to church, or a small prayer group where we can pray for them. So this way we are making a little bit of influence in the community. And the prayers, we have one dedicated person always to receive the calls in their language and pray for them. Anyone is in need. These are some of the things that we worked out, and it is really going good. And talking about this one, Pastor Jason, we already had these kind of forms kept ready in the church. Whenever somebody comes, we kept a record of all these, and we are keeping, and we will be keeping in the days to come also. Even at stage 3, we are going to, because anytime any official come in, like, we have them ready. So yeah, like, pretty much these are the things we are doing. That's it, Jason. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks, Pastor James. That's really great. I think even just everyone's has a different level if they're going back to live services, and just the attendance sheet. I know some churches have pre-arranged, like, you book a time to come and all that kind of stuff. So everyone is kind of a little different when it comes to how they're getting back to their regular times. I'll do two more quick, and then we're just going to conclude. So stay with us. Oh, just one thing I want to make mention as well, and I'll mention it again. This summer, we're doing a church planter summer barbecue. And so we're inviting all of you and your family just to a day. It's actually, I'm using my parents' place because it's a good place to use. So pool party, barbecue, and the kids can swim, or you can swim. And then we'll have like a little bonfire and some events and activities. There's some horses for the kids to ride, or adults for that matter. And just, I want to connect our planters together. And so that's Saturday, August 29th from 4 to 7 o'clock in Paris, Ontario, 204 King Street in Paris. And would love to have you come. Let us know you're coming so we can prepare food. But just to connect your families are all welcome, kids. We're going to have some games and prizes for the kids. And so that's Saturday, August 29th, 4 to 7 p.m. on that August 29th, 4 to 7 p.m. Okay, continuing on, we are going to hear from Ruben from Zoe Church. And Ruben, they kind of soft launched and were prepared to do their official grand opening Easter Sunday. And then COVID came. And so nothing like officially launching during COVID. And so tell us a little bit about what's happening on that side as one of our newest churches.
Yes. Talk about canoeing the mountains.
If you haven't read that book, everyone, by the way, read that book, Canoeing the Mountains. It's good. Gives you some good insight on rethinking and retweaking. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm babysitting my little girl today, so don't mind her chatting in the back. But yes, sweetheart. Okay. Watch Elsa Anna. It's the best trick. Just from Frozen, right? Sorry. No. Just to make it really quick. I'm so sorry.
No,
Give
it's
me
all
one
good.
sec. Come back to me, Jason.
Okay, I'll come back to you. We'll go to Jay Burt. And Jay Burt hasn't officially launched yet, so we're hearing from the church that's still in pre-launch mode, a couple of these things. And so they're about to launch in Collingwood. So tell us a little bit about what's going on there, Jay.
Yeah, so thanks, Jay. We are connected with Clearview Community Church, so we're going to be another campus from Clearview. So I'm kind of sharing as a whole what we're doing as a body. So connecting with our people, I'll try to make these real quick. We just basically broke up everyone on our list to phone calls. It's surprising how people just like a phone call.
Yeah, it's such an old school thing, but it's
Totally.
really making a comeback. Like just the simple act of giving someone a phone call.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So we phone everyone we can, any contacts we possibly have, we call them, even if they just kind of came in and out one time and we have their number, they get a phone call. So we did that. We've done a couple mail outs for Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day. A couple of people mentioned that. We did our Zoom small groups. So we offered different series and video series and stuff and tried to connect people that way. For those who could not do our online presence, so YouTube and Facebook, we connected with our local Rogers cable. So that's predominantly our senior group. They're not online as much. So they can actually watch our service on our local Rogers cable. So which is crazy because they are showing our content 13 times a week now.
Wow.
And back to the kind of the service, which is another one of your questions. We actually had a meeting with them this week and we're supposed to go into their studio and they want us to possibly be recording in their studio from an ongoing basis to continue to get that content out. So that's pretty cool. And by the way, we're not paying a penny. So this is all free. This is all going out.
That's
so
cool. Praise God.
Cool. We've done some different family games. So my wife and a couple of other ladies have been organizing these kind of, we would call like a video scavenger hunt or a photo scavenger hunt. So people within the church, they go around, they have their ideas. Every day they get a new clue or a new place they got to go and get a photo, and then they submit it each week and they get a prize. And so just trying to make things fun for our church family and stay connected. In the community, it's been very cool, some of the stuff that we've had an opportunity to do. We were contacted by our local hospital when the surgical gowns were of short supply, all the disposable ones. And we gathered up every seamstress we could possibly find in our ministerial group. And I spearheaded that, and we stitched. We is not the right word. I did not do any stitching. I helped organize it, but we did 200 hospital gowns for the hospital, and then we had the local BIA in our community, and the chamber contact us to see about reopening businesses. And they actually contacted the ministerial and asked how they could serve us as one of they thought that we were important in the community, and how can they financially support us. But we've kind of turned it on its head and we said, how can we support opening businesses? So we then in turn, I didn't know I'd be in the garment making business, but we then in turn created another 200 gowns. And we've been providing them for dentists and chiropractors and doctors' clinics and anyone that their protocols have gone to the roof, of course, with everything that they need to wear. So that's pretty cool. We've done appreciation for local businesses and first responders and frontline workers. We did, some of the places wouldn't accept it, and I totally get the protocols. But some of the grocery stores, we just ordered a massive amount of pizzas and had them delivered on lunches, and they had pizza lunch. We did every gas station in the entire Collingwood area. We went to all the attendants and gave them gift cards just to go out and have a meal with their family. All the first responders got gift cards for meals to Harvey's and Swiss Chalet and all those places. And one of the things that's happening right now, it's still going on, it's really cool. Is a bit of a story. I know I'll go real fast. A year ago, our church typically does a yard sale for missions. Pastor Tony, his wife Marnita, was there, and a lady said, can you come with me and pray for a lady, or come and speak to a lady who was having some marital issues, and apparently I don't know if she had been abused or what the situation was. The lady who got Marnita to come is a Muslim lady. That was crucial to this story. And so, long story short, Marnita said they tried to get her help and can she get into the house and get into the women's shelter and all that kind of stuff. And then she said, well, can I pray with you? So she goes ahead and prays. This is a year ago at the yard sale. And both the ladies, not believers, they're just like, what was that? Like, that was crazy. And of course, she's like, well, that was God. And the hairs are standing on my arm and all this kind of, it's the presence of God. And so she's just explaining that to them. So she'd been in contact with this Muslim lady. Well, this Muslim lady and her husband own one of the local parks. If you've ever been driving through the area, it's called Jelly Bean Park. It's just outside of Wasaga Beach. Anyway, so she gets in contact with Marnita 2 weeks ago and says, listen, I need you guys to come and do what you do for your kids at Jelly Bean Park. And she said, well, what do you mean? She said, we have kids everywhere and they need whatever you guys have, and she said, well, we might be able to come one time. I'll see what happens. And the lady says, well, even if you come one time, it could change those kids' lives. And this is a Muslim lady. And we actually think that her husband is, and I may not say it right, is an imam. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually think that's her husband's role in the Muslim community. And so they've been there twice. They have about 20 to 25 children that they do a day camp, we'll call it, with for about an hour or 2 hours. The lady provides food for everyone, everything that we need. And the other day there was kids playing in the pool and they're being too loud. So she went over and told them, shh, and locked the pool and dragged them over to the day camp so that they could hear about Jesus. So it's pretty cool. So, that's some stuff we're doing in our community. And then what was your other question? Services, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm going real fast because I know time is of the essence. So when everything hit, of course, we all scrambled as everyone else to get a content online, but we have some talented people on staff and they got us up to speed. And so we do a pre-recorded message, some worship. We keep it within a half an hour. Our entire service online is a half an hour long. That includes the message. That is our Rogers content as well. And so that gets sent over to Rogers and they put it on the cable. And so currently we are continuing to do that. And we've done it 2 Sundays now. One Sunday was a trial run with staff and any board members, leadership to run through protocols. And then last Sunday was our first in-house service, with a 30% capacity and all those regulations. So we didn't have a ton. I think we had about 30-ish. But the main reason that for us, and it's been mentioned a couple times, the main reason for us is we've had for almost 4 months, we had 0 complaints. Everyone was great. But then people are getting restless, and we actually have some people that are struggling with isolation, mental health, and truthfully, they just need to see someone. We have done visitations. We go at the doorstep and see people, but they just need to get out of the house. And so we're doing our pre-recorded, and we're continuing small groups, and we're continuing our in-house in live services as well. And one more thing I'll mention for the community is we contacted the local grocery store and they had a 3-week backlog for grocery deliveries. And so we gathered up, you talked about the priesthood of all believers and gathering people together. And so it wasn't even the pastors that really did it. We have some people in the congregation that approached the grocery store. They go every week. They were trained to pick groceries. So they actually had their masks and stuff on. This has been going on for months now. They go into the grocery store, they get the list of groceries, they pick the groceries, they bag the groceries, we deliver the groceries. We've been doing that for months. And at one point it was like 60 grocery deliveries a day. And then that was in Stayner, Creemore, which is Pastor Clayton. A bunch of you guys know Pastor Clayton. They were doing it as well. They were actually given money by the town through the church, just said, here's a couple $1,000, just anyone that needs food, you guys go take care of them. So some pretty cool stuff happening in the midst of all the craziness that we're going through. So
I love it when the town recognizes that, hey, you guys are meeting the needs better than we can, so you guys do it. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of a cool thing. That's awesome.
So
Well,
hopefully it was okay.
yeah, it's great. So good. Last one, Ruben, and if your little girl is loud, that's okay too.
Thanks, Jason. The last thing that you said, Jason, that even in the midst of amidst COVID, there's some cool things happening. It's so true. Like, I mean, the word that I feel like God really gave me this past January. You can go back to January 1st. You can hear that message. It's literally, this year is a year about going really deep, not wide. And I'm like, it's really curious. I don't really understand that for my season, because I was like, God, come on, we gotta go wide. It's our first year. We gotta reach all these different people. And I'm like, all right, we're just gonna press into what God's doing. And I did not, obviously, didn't foresee this, but man, have we gone deep in those relationships? Being literally still in our first year. October will be our 1 year when we really started. And I think some of the key things, just to kind of keep short on time, is phone calls. Like, I mean, as pastors, we get phone calls, right? As we counsel, as we mentor. But man, it skyrocketed. Like March, April, May, it was like insane. Like my wife was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on a phone call. Like, and then phone call after phone call. Just because like emotional health, like that was really a struggle with like isolation. Our church is predominantly like 18 to 24-year-old. Like that is the heaviest demographic. And for them, they were really struggling with isolation, because they are like, we need to see our family, we need to see our friends. And so there was a lot of that, and phone calls were great for that. We obviously did a switch to Zoom, and we did like Jackbox playing on Zoom, and we did Netflix watch parties, and just try to keep our community engaged and keep it light. And as things start to open up, we typically did Bible studies on Tuesdays. And one of the benefits of our mother church owning their property and having a huge parking lot is we're like, you know what? We're going to do Bible study, social distancing Bible studies. And that's what we did. Huge circle. And legitimately, it was like, yeah, at times you're like yelling out like what you're trying to teach. It takes me back to like when teaching. And that's kind of what it was like. But it has been like superb, to the point where, and I don't just say this for the numbers, but I was shocked. Our Bible study numbers were typically 9 to 10 every Bible study. Like that was an average from the start. And like the last 2-3 weeks, they've been at 30, which is like, I'm like shocked. I'm like, we've had to like really try and say, hey, we have to like make sure we're keeping our distance and staying, social distance friendly. But at the same time, it's like, they're coming for the word, but they're also coming because it's like they're engaging with people and during the season, like a few stories of like, one person actually wanting to get baptized. And so now we're like focusing on that and seeing how we can kind of get them to that place and get them baptized. So just like using what we have with technology, along with serving our community, I think it's really those phone calls and really just trying to, especially because we're so young, we're like, how can we just continue to help those who are with us? Another thing that was really crucial for us was learning how to keep engaging with our community. So on Thursdays, we're going to do a social in the park. And so we would literally just meet in the park in a large circle again and like just make sure we're social distancing, but we're hanging out. And so some would come, it wasn't like that many or whatever, but like it was still like great to be able to meet and to hang out and to keep engaging, because that's one of the things that I felt was really struggling was people were like, how are we continuing to grow and sharpen each other? And so that was really good. In terms of services, we've just continued to do online services for now, especially because during Bible study, we feel like that's when the community engagement is coming. Like we're able to get that community engagement there. So we don't feel the pressure for the Sundays yet, just because like logistically it's too much for us, especially as a small gathering, to try and make sure we're going to get everything all set. So I'm just hoping until like something's open up, maybe come like September, it'll be like, hey, it's a lot more open now. You can restart Sunday services. That'll work. But I think, I guess, we're just trying to figure out, where our congregation is, where our church is at, and how to best like minister them in this season. So yeah, keeping it short.
That's awesome. I think just the power of, utilizing parks and utilizing things like if you don't have space, like, hey, we're going to meet and just around some picnic tables, we're going to be outside. The rules for outside are a lot more lax than they are inside. And so you can do a lot of cool things that way. And so thanks for sharing. We've got a little over time, but I want to just conclude in prayer. And so Diane's going to put us into some breakout groups and just take a couple minutes, if you will, and just pray for one another. Next month, again, we're continuing on. If you can make it though, August 29th, 4 to 7 p.m. For our kind of family barbecue for the summer, just to connect and get around each other a little bit. We are praying for you. Thanks for all of our presenters for sharing today. And yeah, so Diane and Kathleen, throw us into our breakout groups, and let's pray with one another.